Practicing with a metronome is a great way to develop your pocket and improve your timing as a bass player, but sometimes just playing with that steady, incessant click is not the most fun. But that's why there are drum loopers. So this is the Lekato Drum Buddy. It has a built-in drummer and looper on this tiny little about $40 unit here. And let's check it out and see what we can do. So here on the face of the pedal, you've got a foot switch for the drum and the loop. You've got two little black switches up here, and then volume controls for the drummer and the looper. On the back, you've got 1/4-inch ins and outs for your instrument, an input for the power, a headphone out, just like an 1/8-inch headphone jack, and then a USB-C. Though it should be said that the USB-C connection for your computer is not for power, it is just for data transfer. So you have to have the 9-volt power supply to get this to do anything. And in fact, let's put that on now. Should come alive. There it goes. All right. I've been messing around with this thing for about a half an hour now, and just to put it out there, I'm kind of frustrated at this point because this isn't very intuitive, and the instructions are not very well written. Like, it looks like they were translated from another language, so I'm having a hard time with it at this point. I'm gonna mess around with this a little bit more, show you what it sounds like, probably try and explain some of the functionality here, because this thing does a lot of stuff and doesn't have a whole lot of buttons, so everything is very multifunctional, which is a double-edged sword. Yes, you can pack a lot of stuff into a tiny little package like this little baby thing, but it also makes it harder to use, and I'm experiencing the latter of that really, really hard right now, and I'm trying to not get frustrated with it, but it's not looking good, honestly. Okay, let's just get a drum loop going here. I'm gonna choose one at random. We're gonna start the recording here in my software. And then if I push this, does it start the drummer? It does not. If I push it a few times, okay, I think the light is flashing in time with the tap tempo thing. And one thing I'm noticing right off the bat here, like, tap tempo is a good feature, but there is no way to precisely dial in a BPM otherwise. So you can't, like, say, I want to do it at 125. You kind of just have to guess with the tap tempo, because there's no other way to set the tempo of the drummer. Let's try another button here and see what that does. Okay, now we've got drums. Man, that's kind of boring. Can we speed it up a bit? Cool. Can I stop it now? What button do I have to, do I push them both? Like, I genuinely don't know what it's doing right now. And like, I could look it up on this chart that's in here that tells you the states that the pedal is in, and none of it makes sense to me. How do I just get it to stop? Stop. So I have to push both of them to get it to stop. That seems like, what? Why? But it's still like looping around, doing something. I just genuinely do not ever know what this pedal is doing. And no matter how much I read this, like, there's just so much here that it just does not stick in my brain. And I'm not like a stupid person. Like, I'm the kind of guy who, like, reads the instructions for everything that I ever own. And for this to be so difficult to use is really frustrating to me. You know, guys, I just don't think I can recommend this pedal. Like, I feel like I'm fighting against it the whole time instead of actually using it. And I don't want to have to spend all this time to try and memorize what every, you know, lit up LED is supposed to mean, because it doesn't really say on the surface of the pedal. And the things that I think intuitively should do the thing I want almost never does. And I can't keep, like, struggling against these instructions because they're just not very well written. Like, they're translated from another language, surely, probably Chinese, and it just doesn't help. at all. Like, I'm just getting more frustrated with this than anything. A part of the problem with this drummer pedal is that I can't help but compare it to the drummer that I've got on the Zoom B1 X4. And I know that these are completely different beasts. They're not even in like the same price bracket. But for my money, I get way more value out of this because you can actually just see what you're doing here. You can precisely dial in the BPM. You get a little description of the drum loop that you're getting. You can turn on and off a metronome if you want, or a little count in, which helps when you're doing the loops. Like, this to me is just so much more useful and intuitive. Like, I didn't even have to look at the book to figure out what this did because it was all just very plainly on the surface of it. This thing is so obscure and difficult to use that I just don't think I can recommend the Drum Buddy. It's just too difficult to use without getting frustrated, because I feel like I go and like hit a button to do what I think should do, like based on the instructions, and then it just does not do that. Like, it has to be in a certain mode so that you can push 2 buttons to get to the tuner, and then sometimes it's in tap tempo mode, and this thing is flashing this color. It's just way too much to try and figure out for something that should be a much, much simpler and easier to use tool. So I'm sorry, Lekato. I just don't like this. And even at $40, I just don't think I can recommend this at all. So thank you for sending it to me, but don't buy a Drum Buddy. Just get the Zoom instead, because it actually makes sense. Anyway, thanks for watching. AMP out.